Batman Arkham Knight, one of the Batman games of all time. Now, I love Batman Arkham Knight, but the game doesn't resonate the same with other people. Some people don't like the game for different reasons, like the Batmobile and stuff. One issue in particular was the story and how it felt lackluster for some people. Some people didn't like the Jason Todd twist and his whole incorporation to the story. What if I told you, though, that the game was never originally supposed to have Jason Todd and instead another villain? Let's begin the topic of the video. Now, originally, Batman Arkham Knight was not supposed to have Scarecrow and Jason Todd as the two antagonists for the game. Instead, it was originally supposed to be Scarecrow and Hush. Now, let me elaborate. First of all, this news isn't new. We've kind of known for a while, but it's been resurfacing lately and nobody's really talking about it. And the point of this video is to talk about it and see what could have been if they went with this original idea. Now, this was Paul Dini's original idea, having Scarecrow and Hush. And if you don't know who Paul Dini is a legendary Batman writer. He's written like the animated series, Batman Beyond, as well as Batman Arkham Asylum and Batman Arkham City. So Paul Dini wanted to make Hush the main villain over Jason Todd alongside Scarecrow because that's what he set up in Arkham City. However, Rocksteady decided to dump Dini basically and go with Jeff Johns' idea of having Jason Todd as the main villain. And Jeff Johns is the man behind the Batman Arkham Knight we have in our timeline today. Now, there's a lot that this entails, and it brings up a lot of questions too, like, why would you ditch Dini's idea, right? This guy's a literal professional in writing excellent Batman stories. I'm not saying Jeff Johns isn't a good writer, but Paul Dini though? Come on, man, like why? Why would they choose Jeff Johns over Paul Dini, especially since it was Dini that really helped make the last two games for Rocksteady successful during that time? Truthfully, I don't know. I don't know the business reasons and why they did what they did. The point of this video, though, is to talk about his idea. What if Scarecrow and Hush were the main villains of Batman Arkham Knight? How would the story have changed? It probably wouldn't even be called Batman Arkham Knight, right? And just to jump right into it, do I think that Scarecrow and Hush would have been a better duo of villains than Scarecrow and the Arkham Knight? And I think yes, like easily yes. Now there's a lot I want to break down with this, and let's just break it down. To start, let's talk about the setup here. Arkham Knight heavily, and I mean heavily, wasted the amazing setups that were set up in Batman Arkham City. So in a video game like Arkham City, I think it perfectly executed the style of setting things up for the next game. Rather than shoving a cliffhanger in the story or something like that, the setups were all regulated to well thought out side missions and pretty big Easter eggs. Like for Scarecrow, you see his mask here. You can unlock the ship here and see he's been experimenting with a new drug. He has a secret message on the radio that deciphers to something like, "The end is coming, Batman." Something like that. That's definitely not what the message said, but it was something like that. Scarecrow is really well done because it's not like some post-credit scene in the game that kind of takes away from the eeriness of it. The way they set him up was like you had to go out and discover it, making it feel more natural and making it creepier in a way, right? And you can only do something like this in a video game, and I think Rocksteady did it perfectly in Arkham City. The next person, Hush, was another unique way of being set up in Arkham City. You do the mysterious side mission where you find dead bodies and people's faces being cut up. You see Hush in the beginning of the game holding an icebox with presumably someone's face in it, most likely, adding to the world building. And after going through his side mission, you get the eerie ending where you find Hush and you see him look like Bruce Wayne and him leaving Arkham City, making you think he's going to have this grand plan that can take Bruce Wayne down. And now you're just wondering what his story will be in the next game. It was really exciting and it was perfectly set up. But then Arkham Knight rolls around and Hush is just some stupid dog water 2-second side mission. Like, what? I think Scarecrow was actually done well. He worked out, but because he's working with Jason Todd, a character that was never developed prior, it just feels now like two different stories are being told. And Jason was never built up in prior Arkham games. Like, he never was. Like, we got, like, one actual reference to him in Arkham City in a challenge map. And that's it, right? So as far as storylines go, they went a direction where essentially one antagonist was never built up. And because of that, it was kind of lame to a lot of people. On top of things like it being extremely obvious who the Arkham Knight was, etc., etc. But yeah, just based on what I explained, Rocksteady just wasted so much build-up and potential, right? Like, Paul Dini wrote the other two games. Why would you not let him finish his trilogy, essentially? It just felt disrespectful, honestly, in a way, and it was glaringly obvious how they just kind of threw his ideas to the side. Like Hush, his side mission, as I said, sucked ass. The mission was like slapped on like at the end of the game in like a 10-minute mission. Things like Azrael. Azrael was really built up well in Arkham City. We'll talk about him more later, but he was also thrown to the side here. It was obvious they wanted Jason Todd in the main story, but it was obviously not the right place and time because we went into this game thinking, oh my god, what's gonna happen with Hush? Azrael, all this buildup, right? But then we get Jason Todd, like, okay, I guess this is happening. Even if Arkham Knight's story was universally acclaimed as like being an amazing story, I still think Hush would have been better over Jason Todd due to the better setup and payoff it could have given. We've seen the Jason Todd storyline before in other Batman media, popular media at that. Hush though, I don't think a lot of people got to experience this villain to the fullest extent. Not very often anyway. And I think Scarecrow and Hush would have worked as an extremely great pair because not only is it unique, but it's also a very clever theme as to what they represent. Let's just talk about my next point, the potential story. Think about it. What did Scarecrow want to do, and what did Hush want to do? What Scarecrow wanted to do, as we saw in Arkham Knight, was to ruin the image of Batman, right? He didn't want to kill him, necessarily. He wanted to first ruin the symbol of hope Batman stood for in Gotham. Make people look at him and see someone they can't rely on anymore, putting the city into a state of constant fear, as the person they turn to save the day can't do that anymore. Not because he's dead, but because he's unable to. And then there's Hush. While Scarecrow wanted to ruin the legacy of Batman, Hush wanted to ruin the legacy of Bruce Wayne. Do you see how this could have been a clever story? So let's compare it to the motives of the two villains we actually got. Scarecrow in the actual game has a story that I mentioned, wanted to ruin the legacy of Batman. The Arkham Knight simply wanted to kill Batman and didn't care about ruining his legacy. It's a plotline that works, but that's just it. It works. There was no real theme here, at least to me. There was a similar ideology about wanting to ruin Batman by either tarnishing his legacy or killing him, but it wasn't really compelling, I guess. Having Scarecrow with his plan, but now with Hush as a new villain wanting to ruin Bruce Wayne, it could have been really cool, right? Bruce is no longer safe anywhere. His life as Batman is threatened, and his life as Bruce Wayne is threatened. He's safe nowhere. This is a really good theme because both identities of the Caped Crusader are now under fire, and he has to find a way to stop it. Now, okay, this is really exciting to think about, right? Let's speculate what the story could have been. So I'm guessing that it would have gone like a couple ways. The first way is that Scarecrow and Hush would work together, but I don't know how they would write that because Scarecrow never knew about Bruce Wayne, right? He just cares about ruining Batman's legacy. He didn't even really care about Batman's identity, so why would he work with Hush? If anything, he'd probably treat Hush like he treated any other villain in the game that was let loose in Gotham to cause havoc. Well, I don't know. I don't know how they would work together, but I think they would somehow work together, right? Because if these were the two main villains, you wouldn't want them to not interact with each other. It might feel like two different plot lines and it wouldn't work, maybe. I know Arkham City kind of did that with Hugo and Joker's storyline, but even that felt connected since Talia was a part of both, and I think specifically here, it would be better if Crane and Hush just worked together. Okay, so let's just say Hush and Crane somehow got in contact and started working with one another. If I had to guess, maybe Scarecrow sees that if Hush ruins Bruce Wayne, that's the city's biggest philanthropist gone, further helping to push his agenda to ruin Batman's legacy, if that makes sense. That would be why they work together. This is all theory crafting, so I'm guessing this is how it would go. I think Scarecrow's plan would kind of play out similar to how it did in the actual Arkham Knight we got. I mean, Paul Dini would be writing the game, so it could be something else entirely, but I'm just going to go with this since we don't really have a lot of information regarding this. So, yes, while the Scarecrow story plays out, the legacy of Bruce Wayne would be tarnished at the same time, too, with Hush finding ways to ruin Bruce's life. His story would be way more expansive than his side mission we actually got. Hush would try to do his best to ruin Bruce's character and image, right? He'd probably hurt people, use his money in weird ways, actively tarnish the image of Bruce Wayne. At this point, it's just more theory crafting on how it would go, but let's say that somehow Scarecrow and Hush found out the identity of Bruce Wayne before the events of the supposed game. This could change things entirely, right? If they somehow found out the identity of Batman being Bruce, then now there's legit reason Crane works with Hush, and this could ruin Batman and Bruce Wayne completely. The story could go so many ways, but the main theme of Scarecrow ruining Batman while Hush ruins Bruce, I think is way more compelling than Scarecrow ruining Batman and Jason Todd wanting to kill Bruce. It adds way more versatility in how you would want the story to play out, and it's way more simple than having someone wanting Batman dead. And it would have worked so much better because of the build-up we talked about. Seeing Hush as a big bad would have been so awesome, and it could have adapted things from the famous Hush storyline. It could have gave us a deeper dive into Bruce's backstory as well, since Thomas Elliot, aka Hush, plays a huge part in the story of Bruce Wayne and his parents. We could have gone a way deeper story between both sides of the masked vigilante. What we got with Jason Todd had compelling moments too, but due to no build-up in the obviousness, obviousness of the Arkham Knight being Jason Todd, it sucked a lot of people out of the story. You remove a negative point about the game and replace it with one that people wanted to see more, which is Hush, and in that way, people would probably like the story more. Jason Todd is a cool character, sure, but for this particular universe, I mean, come on, you want to wrap up the things you cliffhangered us on in Arkham City in a well thought out and meaningful way, and we never got that in Arkham Knight. And just to elaborate more, we need to talk about Azrael. If Paul Dini wrote Arkham Knight, I would think that Azrael would play into the main story as well, because, I mean, if Paul Dini wanted Hush, a side mission villain in Arkham City, to play as the main villain, I think it's likely that Azrael would have been a part of the main story too. And this would have been so badass, because Azrael was way cooler in Arkham City than he was in Arkham Knight, at least in my opinion. In Arkham Knight, I honestly just thought he was kind of a loser. In Arkham City, he was way more mysterious and badass. Could you imagine a plotline revolving around these three? Hush, Batman, and Azrael? Maybe Azrael helps Batman in stopping the threat, or maybe he's just another antagonist? Who knows? I don't know what Azrael's main plotline would be, but I imagine he would play some sort of role. Maybe not too big, but nobody can say for sure because, you know, this game doesn't exist. And at this point, the questions can be endless, like, would Joker even be incorporated into Paul Dini's storyline? If Joker isn't incorporated, this could have so much more screen time for new villains. And since Paul Dini killed off Joker in Arkham City, I would assume it's possible he wouldn't have him return, but at the same time, maybe he would have, and we might have gotten a similar Joker storyline, maybe. But like I said, the possibilities are endless. I just think that Arkham Knight, despite being an amazing game for me, has one of the most wasted character storylines ever. This is like if Avengers 1 teased Thanos at the end like they did, but then the next time we see him, he dies like how he did in the Marvel What If series. Imagine if Marvel did that with Thanos. Rocksteady did that here with Hush. I mean, it's not as monumental as Thanos, but you know what I mean. It's crazy. And Arkham Knight did a great job at introducing villains and making them popular like Professor Pig. So it's a shame. The same treatment could have been given to Hush. Maybe Paul Dini could have gave us actual boss fights in the game, right? That would have been cool. And I don't want to make it sound like the game we got was terrible, because it wasn't. The story in Arkham Knight was actually very memorable to me. 10 years later, and I remember things vividly about the game that I look on highly. But still, there's always that what could have been thing here, right, with Paul Dini's story, and I think it could have gave us a better plot line, if I'm being real, due to Paul Dini, you know, being a really great writer. It is really obvious in the game they scrapped a lot of his ideas looking into it, since everything is like delegated to side missions that honestly seem like throwaway side missions. It sucks. And the thing with having Jason Todd is, yes, or I'll speak for myself, I do want to see Red Hood in this universe, so at least we got a story of him, but like, they could have saved that for a huge DLC or something for Red Hood, or if we had to sacrifice the Jason Todd mythos completely in this universe altogether, then so be it. Or that could have been an idea for another Arkham game, have Red Hood have his own Arkham game. There's so much things that could have worked out better, but we can't work out Hush anymore because they threw away the Hush storyline. The possibilities of Scarecrow and Hush being the enemies are endless. I think if they both knew Batman was Bruce Wayne, things could have played out so much more in like a compelling way. Playing with that storyline could be very unique. Even if they didn't know Batman's identity, it could still be compelling. Adding in Azrael, maybe the Joker storyline as well, can spice things up, and overall, I think it would be a much more appropriate story for the Arkham universe due to everything already being built up prior, rather than having an obvious villain like the Arkham Knight who doesn't work as well due to a lot of reasons. It is a tough call to make, and I don't know how the story would play out at all. I can't read into people's minds, but I do think Hush and Scarecrow is more compelling than Scarecrow and Jason Todd. What do you think, though? Do you think this could have been better, worse? What's your favorite video game? Let me know. And as always, thanks so much for watching, supporting all of that. Leave a like on the video, share it, subscribe. Check out my new membership program if you're interested. But yeah, any support's appreciated, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe and peace.